Welcome to our daily reflection for this Tuesday, October 14th. And oftentimes the weekly readings echo back to the Sunday reading. We see that today because the theme of the Sunday reading was worship. And it's the 10 lepers who were healed. Only one comes back to give thanks and praise to God, to Jesus. And we saw that theme of worship and how important it was. And here again, we hear that theme of worship. In the first reading from Paul's letter to the Romans, he talks about the gospel and that he's not ashamed. He proclaims the gospel. And then he says that he gives a warning that the wrath of God will be revealed against all in the world because they suppress the truth by their wickedness and impiety. For ever since the creation of the world, what is manifest about God, his invisible deity and power and attributes, his goodness, is manifest in creation, that the creation is good and beautiful and true. And so likewise, they knew that there is a God by nature. And yet, they didn't glorify God, that is, give him worship, and they didn't give him Eucharistic thanks. And rather, they became vain in their reasoning, and their senseless hearts, literally, were darkened. Now, oftentimes, like in the New American Bible, it says their senseless minds were darkened. But it's their hearts that are darkened. And because in the full Semitic Hebraic idea, you think with your heart. The heart and the mind are much more integrated in biblical thinking than in Greco-Roman thinking and in our own. And so he says their hearts became darkened by their false reasoning. And so then they don't worship God. And then God hands them over to impurity as a punishment for rejecting God, and they worship idols and animals and themselves. They become depraved in their behavior, and they exchange the truth about God for a lie. And even exchange, as Paul will go on to talk about, natural relations for unnatural. And this is showing that they've lost the sense of what nature is because you lose God. If you lose God, the Creator, you will misunderstand his creation and what it means and how it's to be understood and its purposes. Even the purpose for sex and sexuality. You'll misunderstand the purpose of sex and of nature when you lose the Creator. And that's what Paul's point is here. And it's a powerful point because we can look at the world today and show how the world has lost God and it's lost the idea of nature. We've lost the idea of man and woman. We're confused about what gender is, what man and woman is, what nature is, because we've lost the Creator. We've lost sight of the meaning and purpose of creation. And everything Paul says here is exactly true. And then he talks about what happens into the spiral of sin. And we can see that in society today. That is tragic and sad. Jesus in the gospel today talks about the need for purification and not being just idolatrous. But he talks about how if you need real cleansing on the interior, then give alms to atone for your sin. That's an act of charity that purifies your heart. So he talks about purification after we hear about Paul and how the lack of purity, especially when it comes to sexual relations after we reject God, the road back is to offer up material goods like money as a purification for our sins. And so almsgiving is a route where we again honor God as first and foremost, and we don't look for physical, temporal consolations and satisfaction. And so Jesus gives us a way out of that cycle of sin, and that is generosity and charity to others. That goes back, brings our hearts back to God. May the Lord bless and keep you.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.